Hello folks, this is Abhinav and we are back with the next edition of Srijan Wednesday webinars. Just in case this is your first webinar, here at Srijan we talk about, we have started this community initiative about lots of things which revolve around technology, around design, around marketing, around methodologies like Agile, uh, and here we will be inviting speakers on and off every 2 weeks on a Wednesday so that we maintain our policy of the Wednesday webinars. So today we are going to talk about infrastructure and managing things around it in the technology space. Today's speaker is Mr. RITESH Gurung. RITESH brings in over 10 years of experience in building web applications using open source technologies based on the LAMP stack. He's been instrumental in implementing, architecting, developing and managing large number of successful projects around diverse platforms. Before I hand over to RITESH, I'd like to tell you that the last 15 minutes of the webinar will be a Q&A round. You might see on your webinar panel there is an option to raise hand. As soon as you raise your hand, we know that you want to raise a question, ask a question. So we'll unmute you and then you can go ahead with the question. For any more queries, etc., you can always write to us at webinars@srijan.in. Yeah, so I think that's it. I'll transfer to RITESH now and he'll run you through the session. RITESH.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Abhinav. Myself, RITESH Gurung. So I'm working as a Director Technologies at Srijan Technologies. So over the past years, I have experienced through a lot of technology challenges, right, across the different platforms.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
So during all these experience, I have experienced this particular scenario wherein people need to roll out the site faster, and in terms of the deployment, in terms of migration, in terms of maintaining the backup, all sysadmin tasks. At times it becomes a sort of a cumbersome job for a sysadmin to maintain all this information in his head and to keep track of when the things were implemented and what was the last update that was done. So those kind of scenarios are pretty obvious in these. So all these years, so we have been struggling through this, and out of the curiosity we tried one of the good thing that Drupal offers is to build the module which is kind of based on the custom development. So we came across this Aegir, which proved us sort of a cPanel for Drupal, like for hosting the sites in traditional way. Either the cPanel is there or there is some sort of a hosting platform. So Drupal offers Aegir, which is kind of built on top of that. So I'll run you through the agenda, what we have. Today we will explore what the Aegir is, who should be using it, and what are the different requirements in order to build a platform that is based on Aegir. Then I'll run you through some of the live demos, and in the end we can have a question and answer sessions. So let me first walk you through what the Aegir is. So Aegir is basically a hosting platform that is based on Drupal distribution. The good thing about this is it's totally built on top of Drupal, which means everything that you see in Aegir interface will be somehow referred to what we refer as nodes or kind of those scenarios. And it is built with drush commands. So couple of things that run in the background are using the Drush. So this basically takes care of most of the sysadmin tasks like database backup, cloning the sites, upgrading the platforms from, let's say, from Drupal 6 to Drupal 7, and also running some of the tasks like applying the security patches, all those scenarios. It also provides with an easy front-end interface to manage all these tasks, and also help in updating the core and the contrib modules. So let's try to find out who should use it. But before answering this question, who should use it, let's try to find out why we should use this. So often these questions comes in whenever you are installing a site or running through the sysadmin task. So do you have to make a request to sysadmin to get a new development site up? So let's say there is a client request, right, and you have to urgently show sort of a demo at VRs. So at times what happens is, some of the time the sysadmin is not available, or either he is traveling. So those kind of scenarios are all often handled by this. Second thing is, do you have an inconsistent process of upgrading the Drupal code and applying the security patches? So most often what happens is, whenever we are upgrading a let's say Drupal core, so either we follow a sort of a ad hoc method, which is not a sort of a consistent method in terms of deploying the sites, right? And there is a security patches also that needs to be applied. So there is no sort of a rule of thumb in implementing all these scenarios. The next is, you may want to find out when was the last backup taken, right? And the most important is, where is a site hosted, right? So often you fiddle around with the Apache configuration in terms of identifying where the installation is for a particular Drupal site. So these are the different questions, and most of the scenarios, right, whenever there is a sort of a permission issues, so all you need to do is to randomly check whether the permissions are correct for the different files and folders. So this is what happens whenever you install a sort of a Drupal site. Now with the Aegir, right, first of all, Aegir is very easy to install. It's easy to set up and provision a new site, and it's very easy task to manage the different platforms of Drupal distributions. So let's say if you want to deploy a site, right, which uses, let's say, a Pressflow distribution or Panoply, right, or you can say the Drupal 6 or 7. So all these Drupal sites or the Drupal platforms can be rolled out within a second of time, right? And it allows the sysadmin or the user of the Aegir to easily cruise through the Drupal sites without worrying about the sysadmin task. So in actual, the sysadmin or the Aegir user, he doesn't have to remember all the instructions that he needs to follow in terms of whether the Apache configurations are correct, whether there is a correct permissions. All those scenarios he doesn't have to worry. So in terms of who should be using it, the sysadmins who are managing the multiple Drupal sites. Oftentimes we felt that developers also need an access to the Aegir platform. So let's say if a developer needs to roll out a site in 3 different environments, let's say a development environment he needs to set up, he needs to set up a staging environment, and there is a sort of a QA environment that he needs to set up. So in those scenarios, the developers also needs to have that kind of access. the different hosting companies who are purely Drupal based, because right now the Aegir is supporting only the Drupal platforms, but it's on the roadmap of Aegir that soon it will be supporting the WordPress also. So there are different requirements before the Aegir can be implemented. So all you need to know is the basic command line skills. You need to have a LAMP stack. You need to have a root access to the server. That means you should have a sort of a dedicated server, and the MySQL root password, Git, and of course the access to the internet, right? Because you need to download certain packages, all those informations. So these are the different requirements. But over a period of time, what I have experienced is till now it works flawlessly on Debian 5 and Ubuntu 10.04. But on Debian 6, you need to have a backport for Squeeze and Squeeze Debian distribution, and you need to have a backport in terms of implementing it in Ubuntu 11.10 or so, right? So these are the prerequisite. Although it comes with a dev package Aegir, but that is still under development, and that needs to be tested thoroughly. So what I would recommend is if you are doing it for the first time, so you better go through the manual installation rather than having a sort of a installation through the Aegir package. So the next is we can have a sort of a live demo as to how this thing is implemented, and then we can just go to the question and answer. So this is the link which is basically for the installation process in terms of what are the different components, requirements, all these things are listed in here. So let me take you to straight away to the installation part. So I have a LAMP stack which I have configured already. So I'm running a virtual machine which is installed with pre-installed with Ubuntu 10.04. The Git is installed, peer packages for the Drush is installed, and so it is using Drush 4.5. Yeah. So first we need to check what is the host name that we have set up. So within this demo, we'll be continuously using example.com as our deployment server. So if I can just check whether we have it. So I'll quickly run through. So this means this is again pointed towards the same virtual machine which I am running. So right now this is a plain LAMP installation. So first of all we need to see what is the host name that we have set up. So right now it's example, so I'll just change it to example.com to maintain the consistency through the demo. So let me know if you are not able to see the screen. So in case if you are not able to see, just raise your hand. Okay. So there are a couple of things that we need to do before actual installation begins. So first of all, as a process, we need to ensure that MySQL installation is a safe installation. Yeah. So in the document that is given on the Aegir community site, right? So it recommends that you should always run Aegir with safe installation, which means the anonymous access shouldn't be there. So I'll quickly run through that. So I won't change the root password, but I'll remove the anonymous access and I'll remove the test database which comes with the default installation. So I'll reload the privileges. That's it. Then as a next step, what I want to do is I don't want to run with a root user. Instead of that, I want to create a new user called Aegir and run with that. So I'll provide all the privileges. So I'm just creating a user called Aegir. Should have an access to the local host, and let's try setting up the password. I'll quickly log out and let's try to see if I'm able to access. Yes. Okay. So this step is completed. So the next step is to create a new user called Aegir, which should be allowed to run certain tasks. So what I'm going to do is to create a new user. So I'm just following this instruction. Yep. So I'll quickly add user add. So we'll set up the home directory to where Aegir, the name of the user. So on the site, there are separate instructions in case if you are using CentOS, Solaris, or Arch Linux. So you can just follow through those. And then we will add this user to www data group, that is the group under which runs the Apache. Okay. Now, as a next step, we need to set up a permission for the Aegir user, so that the Aegir user is allowed to control the Apache, which means we'll be providing an access to restart the Apache, because some of the configuration files will be modified by the Aegir user. So before that, we'll just enable the rewrite module. Okay. So at this point, we really don't need to restart the Apache server. So the next step is to provide a sort of a symlink to the configuration, which will be specified or which will be configured by the Aegir user. We are just creating a symlink. So once we have created a symlink, then these are the different memory limits that we need to set up. So if we can just check up what is the memory limit that we have set up for Apache. So all this tasks, we need to do that with the sudo user. Right now our memory limit is 128 MB, which is fine as per the recommendation on the site. Then as I said, we need to set the permission to restart the Apache for Aegir user. So we will just create a file. So now that we have set the permissions, we will just change the permissions for the file. So then we need to see the DNS setting, because right now we will be running this on the same machine. I'll quickly check. So I'll just quickly copy this. Paste it over here. So MySQL server is already installed, and this step we have already covered. So next is the Drush installation. So I have already configured this with the Drush 4.50. So once we have completed all these steps, the next thing we need to do is to switch our users to Aegir. So just to verify if we are in the right directory, yes. So this shows that we are in the right directory. I'll just make a default Drush directory where the provision files, which is basically the kickstart for installing the Aegir and provisioning the Aegir platform. So all these installation will be done there. So we'll use the drush command. Okay, so I think we skipped that step wherein the dash needs to be installed. So let me quickly check. We have the peer. Okay, so we have already installed the drush also. Okay, so we need to install one more, the console table package. Okay, so from here we'll just download the provision package which is required for the Aegir. So just to see, so we have the provision package as you can see in this list. Now I think this is a good point to start with our Aegir installation. So as a couple of things, so either we can start with Drush host master install, which basically takes Aegir DB install user as root, but we want to specify the Aegir DB user as Aegir, which we have created. So if we can see post master, so we can specify this with the Aegir DB user. Okay, so this is the front end which we'll be accessing. This is the URL of the front end which will be used to access the main dashboard for Aegir. So we'll just specify with Aegir example.com. So let me know if anyone is experiencing low audio quality. So we'll use the same password which we have specified. From here, we'll just start with the Aegir installation. Okay, so let's experience this. So we have seen that there is some error in the sudoer list that we have maintained regarding the permissions. So let's get back to that. Default. This is exactly. Okay, we'll again see that file. So we have the defaults as Aegir, which doesn't require a TTY. Aegir has all the rights. I should be able to log in without any password, and we have given the permissions for Apache to CTF. So there was this misconfiguration. So right now what it is doing is it's downloading the necessary packages and the default Drupal installations which will be required in order to make the Aegir platform. So it is using an Aegir make file which basically contains all the information as the different modules are required for that. Uh, so, so while this thing is being done, there are a couple of things that needs to be aware of is, so whatever the instructions that are given on the community Aegir site, so that basically entails to the different platforms which are being used. So while doing a sort of a information or gathering the information from there, so you have to be very careful about what you are choosing and on which platform are you doing. So like in this particular demo, as I copied the wrong configuration files for this Aegir sudo user, so it wasn't able to go through that particular step. Is in progress. So let me know if you have any questions till the steps that we have followed so far. So in case if you have any questions, just raise your hand. So once the process finishes, so we'll have a couple of directories that will be created, um, which is based on the host master profile, and there will be certain directories which will allow us to configure the different platforms. Um, so once this process is completed, I'll let you know how those platforms are created for different Drupal distributions. So I'll quickly roll out to the other terminal, and because right now it's running on top of a virtual machine, so that's why it's taking a bit time. So I'll just quickly switch back to the original machine. Uh, up. So once the Aegir is installed, so accessing the URL will give you a screen like this. So here we can specify the username and the password. Just reset the password. So here we can see the different site aliases. So right now our site is running on host master. Just to see, so this is running on host master, which is using the site path as aegirexample.com. So we'll be using this. So as you can see right now, this is the main page of Aegir platform. Here we can just specify the password. So under this you will find some of the menus which are quite of relevant to what we have in the standard Drupal menu, but there are some additional things which is basically related to the hosting. So within this we have the clients, so we can create different clients and allow them the access to their sites only, and we can have the queues which will be basically used whenever a new site is being provisioned. So all those items or the tasks which will come under the queues will be displayed up here, and in order to see whatever the operations that took place during that particular queue process, if you click on the view, it will give you the list of all the messages that were, or all the processes that were involved in that process of the queue. So let's quickly go to create some of the clients and create some of the platforms and some sites. So I'll just quickly go to one of the platform. Yeah. So here we have different platforms that are configured. So if we go to this, yeah. So under platforms, we have right now an empty platform. Now if I want to install Drupal, the core Drupal, So all I need to do is to download the Drupal. So it will start the process of downloading the core Drupal under that platform. So there are other ways to do that also. If you have a sort of a make file, so that can be specified in this path. In the meantime, we can just look in for the other platform. We can simply download a tar file and untar under that. So let's try to do this thing. So we can just create two different platforms. One is 6.28 and the other one is 7.23. So I'll just copy the link. Okay, so it seems sort of a failure in the connection. I'll just try to reset that. Okay, so now we have the platform for Drupal 6 installation. So I'll just quickly copy the path for that. And we'll set up Drupal 6. So we'll set up the path here. So right now it's verifying the platform that we have configured. Uh, so which basically involves a process of whatever the modules that are installed under that, and if there is any sort of update on top of that. So it's verifying those steps. So now we go to the different packages. Right now it's not listed out any of the packages. So while this verification is going on, uh, so we'll just try to download the Drupal 7 installation also. So as you can see right now, the process for that verification for Drupal 6 is completed. Um, if we see this, so we should be able to see what are the different packages that are there in this particular platform, different modules that are available, the installation profile, and the themes. Now let's try to spin off one of the site with this platform. So I'll just go to create content, site. Uh, let's give it a name, test.example.com. So we'll use the platform Drupal 6. We'll use the DB as localhost. So here we can just configure the different clients, and which can be seen in this create content and the clients. So we can configure the different clients and assign them different sites. So we can have an environment where we can configure dev environment, staging environment that are specific to some of the clients. So now the installation is going on. So I'll just download. The 7. now as you can see, the site test.example.com is also ready. So right now I have configured this the test example.com, so I'll have to specify that in my virtual host entry. So let me quickly go back to my settings. And now let's try to access test.example.com. So as you can see, a new Drupal 6 site is rolled out with the default installation. So in case if you want to reset the password for those, so we can just go to home and under this test example, this will help us in setting up the password. So now you can just see that within few minutes and without actually logging into the server, so I was able to roll out a new site. So this is a pretty straightforward process. The only thing that involves a sort of a server interaction in terms of the terminal access is configuring the different platforms. So once the basic or the groundwork is done in terms of setting up the platform, so rest of the things can be managed easily with this. Yeah. So let me see if I have. Okay, so Drupal 7 is also there. So I'll just configure this and let's see how the migration process takes place. So this will involve the same process as to verify what are the different installation profiles, what are the different modules or the themes that are available. So the only thing when migrating the site from Drupal 6 to Drupal 7 is if there are too many custom modules that are involved while writing while deploying a site. So that might cause a bit of problem. But the suggestion is that first of all you'll have to disable all those modules, because while doing the migration, it kind of does a check against the modules that are involved or enabled against which are there already available as a sort of a contrib module. So we have this Drupal 7 installation verification completed. Now let's see different package themes that are available. Yeah. So these are the different installation profiles, right? So I'll just try to migrate at least one of the site. Yeah. So I'll just run a migration. So this is the domain name, and whatever the platforms that are configured. So you can choose the different platform. So this is the current platform. So I want to migrate it to Drupal 7. So once we have initiated the process, so it will again go into the task queue. And once this task is completed, so we should be able to see the migrated site in Drupal 7. So these are the different insights about the Aegir. Of course, to get into the deep knowledge of Aegir, so this cannot be completed in one session. Try to see if we can just have another session as a sort of a continuation session for this. That will involve a certain process as to configuring the Aegir on different servers. So we can have the multi-server installation also, where one of the site is running on one server and the other site is running on the other server. So I hope this was useful in terms of getting an insight of Aegir. So let me know if you have any queries or questions related to that. So in case if you have any questions, just raise your hand and I'll unmute your mic so that you can just ask the questions. I hope this session was useful for those who wanted to have an insight about the Aegir, what it does. So thank you all for joining in, and please do send in your feedback at ritesh@srijan.in in case if you have any queries, or you can just send in your queries or feedback at webinars@srijan.in.